or one new development. Let's do that first. Thank you.
Aldous.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I thank the Backbench Business Committee for granting this important debate, and I congratulate my right honourable friend, the member for Hulton Price and Howden, for securing and leading it. Before I came to this place, I practised as a chartered surveyor for 27 years in Suffolk and Norfolk, and much of my work focused on the residential development sector, advising landowners, house builders and also local authorities. Today, my involvement revolves around meeting the needs of often desperate constituents seeking a decent home, addressing concerns with regard to the pressure on infrastructure that arises from developments, and working with local authorities to regenerate town centres. The extent of the national housing crisis has been graphically illustrated by what we've heard from around this chamber this evening, and also it been emphasised by Crisis, the National Housing Federation and Policy Exchange in the briefings that they have provided us. All of them go on to illustrate the advantages of a vibrant and dynamic house building sector. Madam Deputy Speaker, in the time available to me, I shall briefly highlight how I believe we can meet this major challenge. Firstly, it is important to focus on all sectors of the housing market, and this includes the elderly, and the need to ensure that we have sufficient and properly laid out and designed homes for older people. I mention this as I co-chair the Housing and Care for Older People, APPG, along with the Noble Lord Best, who does much vital work in this sector. We have an ageing population who need and deserve properly adapted and comfortable homes. The provision of more such accommodation will free up other homes for others to move into. Secondly, we must also build more homes for social rent. Both Crisis and the National Housing Federation calculate that we need to build 90,000 homes for social rent each year if we are to tackle the current homelessness crisis. Policy Exchange also highlight that if we invest in and expand social house building, we also restart the stalled conveyor belt of home ownership. Thirdly, there is a need to improve the planning system, to ensure that all local planning authorities are functioning properly, that they all have up-to-date local plans supplemented by local design codes, and that they all determine planning applications promptly. Planning departments must be properly resourced and adequately staffed in order to do this, and this means they need the funding from national government. Fourthly, one of the solutions to the housing supply crisis is already in place in the form of Homes England, who do good work in facilitating development on challenging sites, invariably in urban areas, and will also provide development finance through the Levelling Up Home Builders Fund. It would help if their role and their resources could be increased so that they can do more in facilitating urban regeneration. My fifth point is that we should also give consideration as to whether there is a need for investment zones to promote the redevelopment of derelict sites in urban areas. In Lowestoft, in my constituency, the enterprise zone, which is focused on commercial development, has been a great success, though to a degree it has run out of steam and is in need of re-energising. The proposed investment zones that were announced last September did provide a vehicle for doing this. The proposals that Suffolk County Council and East Suffolk Council worked up included three large, primarily residential redevelopment sites, the Sanyo, the Geldwen and the Brook sites, and thus it is disappointing that the plans for investment zones that were announced in the March budget were much more limited than was originally proposed. Finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm mindful of another challenge that confronts us in towns and cities across the country: the decline of our high streets and town centres, which urgently need revitalising. In these locations, there are millions of square feet of former office and shop space often on upper floors, and we need to promote and encourage their residential reuse. If we do this, we can provide customers for the shops and for the leisure facilities that remain in those town centres. Invariably, these properties can be difficult to convert, and thus too readily at times developers prefer greenfield sites. We need to work with those developers to remove the barriers to carrying out town centre projects. As a start, the government could consider the zero rating of VAT for conversion and refurbishment work so as to put such projects on a level playing field with new build. In conclusion, Madam Deputy Speaker, increasing the supply of new housing opportunities is a panacea for many of the challenges that we face. Providing people with warm and decent homes, enabling them to get that first important step on the housing ladder, improving the nation's health, regenerating urban areas and town centres, and delivering